So why this one? Well, we did Halloween, we did Friday the 13th. Those are the two series that I know the most about. This was one that I definitely had to go back and do a little research. I did not come into this one completely clean. Without doing some last minute research. I did have to watch some of the middle movies and be like, was this 3? Was this 4? Was this 5? Because it has been a long time since I've seen some of these middle ones. This is a series that has sort of shaped the world of a lot of horror. It started in the 80s, working their way through the 90s, and then we have the reboot in 2010. There has always been a thought process of let's do it another one, let's bring it back. I've heard some rumors recently about wanting to do another Friday or Nightmare on Elm Street without Robert Englund, because Robert Englund's getting a little too old, and who do they think they would do it? I really don't know. I think we'll get into this, especially with the reboot. There are some things that I think Hollywood needs to think about more than just who the main actor is. And let's get into it. I mean, I think we can all guess what we're going to start at the bottom, by the way, and work our way up as always. You're probably going to guess what number 9 is, because if this wasn't number 9, I'd be shocked on everybody's list. It is the reboot with Jackie Earle Haley. I am going to do a little bit at the beginning of each movie and just kind of give you a synopsis of the movie. And then we'll go into some points about it. So, the film that brings back horror icon Freddy Krueger as a darker and more sinister character than ever before. While Freddy is on the prowl, a group of teenagers being stalked soon learn they all have a common factor, making them targets for the twisted killer. Now, so let's talk about this one. So, this was the 2010 remake. We have not had a Freddy Krueger movie since Freddy vs. Jason, which I believe was 2003. So we were 7 years out from Freddy vs. Jason. This one is a problem. And I don't think it's the star. The star of this is Jackie Earle Haley, who plays Freddy Krueger. And if you don't know who Jackie Earle Haley is, he is Rorschach from Watchmen. It's a faithful retelling when it comes to the main plot. The problem is that they dance very close to the line of being almost a shot-for-shot remake, which is a problem. But they also try to do something that Hollywood was really big on this time of year, this decade, and this time of movie making. Was Hollywood was really into trying to make everything realistic. They had this really big hard-on for wanting to be, what if Freddy was real? What if, with the Rob Zombie ones, like Rob Zombie's kind of director that does over-the-top stuff, but like, what if it was real? Like, what if he what if he was a kid and went to a mental institution? Like, it's a lot of stuff that it really bogs the movie down to the point where it's just like, why do we care? Like, the big thing about this one that they were really pushing back in the day was his makeup looks exactly like like just what a burn victim would look like. And it's like, yeah, but a burn victim is horrible to see. But when you go from something like Freddy in, we'll get into it in the new Nightmare or even the original one, it's not that bad when it comes to a scary factor. From a realism standpoint, it's one thing, but it's too much. And as Alex brought up, they did took away from the mystery. And it's over the top. I've said it here on the podcast before, and I'll say it again. There is a director, and I cannot remember the director because I would love to quote him on this, but I remember him doing an interview, and he said there is no character, whether it's a villain, whether it's a hero, whatever, that you've ever watched in a movie and have sat in a theater and looked at the screen and said, I really wish what they were like as a child. No one has ever said that, but for some reason, Hollywood wants to give you every bit of detail of how they became who they were. I don't know if this was like an episode 1 Star Wars type thing where like, we know how he became Darth Vader. And it's like, yeah, that kind of worked. And even there's a lot of people who hated that. Can we just not make him a scary guy that haunts people in their dreams? It was just way too much of stuff that no one really cared about. Like, I think if they just did another Nightmare on Elm Street, didn't reference anything from the past movies, didn't try and do shot for shots like some of the kills and stuff, it would have been probably received a lot better. But when you're sitting there watching it going, there's no way you cannot compare this to the original. And I feel like that just destroyed it. And I feel bad for Jackie Earle Haley because he seems like a really good guy, and I think he did the best he could, but it just flopped. And I don't know many who like this movie, let alone say like the Rob Zombie Halloweens or the new Halloweens, where there's some people who are like, it's not bad, but you know, there's only so much people can take. So that's number 9. And again, I'd be shocked if anyone didn't have that as number 9. Now we're going to go to number 8. We're going to jump way back. Actually, not way back. We're going to jump back about 19 years. Final Nightmare. Freddy. This one is just, oh boy. This one I forgot about. This is one of those ones that I was like, what happened in this movie? And then I quickly watched it. I was like, oh, right. Not much happens. This was in 1991. This was the last of the mainline Friday the 13th before we got into the new Nightmare, Freddy vs. Jason, and the reboot. Just when you thought it was safe to sleep, Freddy Krueger returns in his 6th installment of the Nightmare on Elm Street films as psychologist Maggie Burroughs, tormented by recurring nightmares, meets a patient with the same horrific dreams. Their quest for answers leads to a certain house on Elm Street where nightmares become reality. Now, this is an interesting movie in the fact that at the beginning of the movie, they kind of give you a what's happened up until now. And the what happened until now is actually a really fun concept. And I feel like that so hurts this movie. In the little blurb at the beginning, Freddy kills all the teens and kids in Springwood. And I'm like, that's interesting. He actually succeeds. And then it just goes off a cliff. Because that cool concept of like, what do you do when you don't have any targets left? Do you go after the adults? It just falls apart. It really just falls apart after that. The Freddy makeup in this poster is not a great. This poster makes this movie look a lot more badass than it is. There are other posters for this that are more of the newer releases on DVD where it is a very clean looking Freddy Krueger. The indentations and distresses on his face are not as punctuated. It is very clean looking. There's a daughter. Did you know that Freddy had a daughter? No one else did, and no one gave a crap because they introduced her in this movie. We'll talk about it later in one of the other movies. They bring up Freddy has a mother, and I'm like, okay, I can kind of get that. But like, yeah, Freddy had a kid, and I'm like, excuse me? What do you mean Freddy had a kid? Yeah, and it just goes off the rails. The Power Glove death is the one that I think everyone talks about. Yeah, this was one that I struggled through. I really struggled to watch this again because it was just like there's nothing about this movie that made me go like, ooh, interesting. It was honestly kind of a snore fest. At least see, and there is a part of me that thought about switching these and going, at least the Jackie Earle Haley one had a little bit of like It's not the way you should do it, but at least you gave it a shot, because this one was just like a paint by numbers Freddy movie, and I'm kind of glad this was the last one, because I worry about what the next one would have been if they just kept going through this, because I'm like, he had a mother, he had a daughter, we killed everybody, we didn't kill everybody, like, where do you go? Like, this is the perfect setup for the Friday the 13th Jason Goes to Space, because you're that's the next step, is taking Freddy to space somehow. So yeah, this was a slog, but hey, you know what? Maybe there is somebody out there who likes this one. I don't know who, but maybe there is. So that is number 8, the final nightmare. Let's move back even more and talk about Nightmare on Elm Street 5, The Dream Child. Oh boy. Alice, who is one of the main characters in this franchise, finds the deadly dreams of Freddy Krueger starting once again. This time, the taunting murderer is striking through the sleeping mind of her unborn child. Ugh. There is something about the Friday the 13th series, and I'm going to compare a lot of those two because they do kind of run parallel. There is a lot of people who don't like the middle group of Friday the 13th movies. We'll say 4, 5, 6, 7 that kind of feel the same. Let's be honest. Freddy or Jason goes to a camp, kills a bunch of people, one person survives, they kill him, rinse, repeat for about 4 movies. This one and a few of the other ones, they all try to tweak this franchise in ways that I just don't feel need to happen. If you simply did Freddy goes in, haunts some people, tries some interesting kills, one person kills him, rinse, repeat, I think we'd be a little better than now there's an unborn child, and now the unborn child is getting nightmares. Like, come on. Even the title screen in this movie is a cheap version of this franchise. The title screen, if you don't remember, is literally the title written in chalk. This photo has a better looking title than the title screen. Yeah, the demon baby in this is just a joke. Like, again, we're getting into just why are we changing things? Why are we mucking with them? Freddy's on a skateboard in this one during the day. This is the one where we introduce Freddy's mom, Amanda Krueger. She helps the teens and tries to kill her son. She is a nun in this franchise. Of course she is, because she's got to be the complete opposite of what Freddy is. Good God. Like, again, I think we'd be a lot better if it was just went to wash the dishes and came back to Demon Baby. Yep. That's what you missed. These are movies that I feel run the trope of a lot of 80s horror movies where the posters look way more interesting than the movie is. And that sucks, because that poster is a very interesting look. Like, there is a carriage, he's shushing because I guess he wants to keep the baby quiet. Like, it's an interesting look, but it's like, once you get into that movie, you're like, yes, there is a demon baby, kind of, but yeah, this was a waste of time. So that is number 7. Let's get into number 6. We're starting to get better. We kind of got through the crumb and the waste of times. Now we start getting into some that are a little easier to watch, a little more fun. I don't mind Freddy having fun in these movies. I think that's one of the biggest problems with this franchise, is that there are some people who love the original and love, for say, the new Nightmare, and love that really scary Freddy. And then there gets into that comedy part, which they do kind of poke fun at in New Nightmare, where there's that comedy desk, like the Power Glove, like the black and white Freddy, stuff like that. I think you can balance them pretty well. I think there is a place for the humorous side of Freddy in some moments, but I feel like when you push it over the limit and you jump the shark, to be honest, that's when you get into the, okay, we've really gone past the point of being scary, and this has just become a comedy movie at that point. So we have gone from the Dream Child to the Dream Master. This is number 4. This is Nightmare on Elm Street 4, The Dream Master. Now, 1988, the year I was born, Freddy Krueger is resurrected from his apparent demise and rapidly tracks down and kills the remainder of the Elm Street kids. However, Kristen, who can draw others into her dreams, wills her special abilities to her new friend, Alice. Now, this is a sequel to 3. They're similar to the Halloween movies and the Friday the 13th. Most of this does follow a consecutive timeline. This one in particular is a direct sequel to Nightmare on Elm Street 3, The Dream Warriors, which amazing song, and we'll get into that when we get into that movie. Number 3 is number 3 on my list. Number 3 on your list is Dream Master. See, this one I thought was okay. I didn't hate this one. There are ones higher up that I think people would probably knock down a bit, but I have a love for them because they were around when I was here. Yes, Dawkins, exactly. I grew up with those. That's when I became a horror fan, so they do have a little space in my heart, and there is one that is a couple steps up that people will be like, really, you like that one? It's probably the one I watched the most and I love it. So with the Dream Master, this is a sequel. This one is an interesting one, in particular because of the main character. So we had an actress in movie 3 that was our lead star. However, for reasons when it comes to contract and a whole bunch of other stuff, she did not come back for movie 4. So, in an odd choice, we have recast the main character in a horror sequel, which is odd a bit, because I think if they were a side character, it's one thing, but if it's something like a direct sequel, it's kind of odd that you would change the main character, but hey, whatever. We still have a little bit of comedy in this. It's not completely gone downhill when it comes to comedy. We are still pretty serious. The 80s CG on the specific desk kill is one of the ones that I don't mind. I think we're getting into some CG where it gets a little too much, but we're playing with it. We're not going full CG, which I think some 80s, 90s movies really try to, and it just falls apart. You guys aren't The Matrix. Like, calm down. We could do practical effects in a horror movie. I specifically like this one for the waterbed scene. I think that is a very nice little nod to the original movie, to the original kill that everyone kind of knows. This one, I would say if you're a fan, I would definitely not sleep on this one. I think this is a good one. If you like 3, and we'll talk about how much people like the Dream Warriors number 3 movie, I'd say watch this one as a nice sequel. It is obviously not better than movie 3, but it's still a good movie. I would definitely give it a shot. We're at the halfway point already. See, I told you I'd get these guys out. I told you I'd get you out of here before the Jays game. Number 5. Number 5, we are running through most of the newer ones. Let's go back a little bit further to number 2, Freddy's Revenge. This is the direct sequel to the original. Jesse Walsh moves with his family into the home of the lone survivor from a series of attacks by dream-stalking monster Freddy Krueger. Here, he is bedeviled by nightmares and inexplicably violent impulses. Little more comedy in this movie than the original. And I think this is where the world of Freddy kind of wanted to see how far they could push it. The original movie was very anti... Whoa, in the chat, Andy, not a chance, number 1 on my list. Really? Number 2 is number 1 on your list. Okay, that's fair. I'll give you that one. I know a lot of people do like this one. It's not my favorite. But it was not a bad movie. I don't think this is a bad movie. It's just I've got some love for some other ones. I do find it a little weird that we had such a great horror icon in the first movie with Nancy and with Heather Langenkamp, that we don't really focus on it that much in the sequel. Like, I really think we could have turned her into Jamie Lee Curtis from Halloween. In this one, we have a male main character, but Lisa, the other character, has the final battle with Freddy, which, again, is an odd choice, in my opinion, but it's, again, I'm not crapping on this movie. It's just not one of my favorites. This was another one that I had to watch again and kind of remind myself of what happened in this movie. The first one holds such a great space in, I think, a lot of people's hearts that second one just kind of gets lost, because once you get into 3, 4, and 5, it's sort of just pandemonium and chaos of comedy and horror and weird babies and stuff, that this one kind of gets lost. And that might be why I ranked it so low. The skipping rope with the gym teacher, I was like, I don't know about that one. But hey, again, the biggest part about this that frustrates me is this movie poster. And it is simply a personal gripe with it. And it's more of a personal gripe because of something that I did a long time ago, and it's something that kind of haunts me. There was, back in the day, I had my bedroom at my mom's house, and I had slanted ceilings on half of my room. And on that one slanted ceiling, I put a whole bunch of drawings that I did. I would draw something, I would cut it out, and I would tape it. And I had like a big mural of drawings that I did. And one of them was I recreated the Friday the 13th part 4 cover, whichever one. Yeah, I think it's 4, where it's the mask and it has the knife through the eye hole of the mask. I drew it and I loved it. I thought it was one of the best drawings I did. I thought it was really cool. Then I had a friend come over. And the way that I drew it, I made a mistake. So if you have a hole, I'm going to try to explain this to people who don't understand art. If you have a hole and you put something through it and it's dark under here, you would see the blade go through, but you wouldn't see, like, it would go through, it wouldn't stop at the eye. Well, my drawing got to the eye and then it went black. And I was like, oh, I made a mistake. I screwed up. I'm never going to live this down. Now, I look at this poster and this nose frustrates me because I feel like this nose should be a little further over and they just made that mistake. And it is absolutely frustrating to me that I will look at this and it just reminds me of my drawing from back in the day. It's a small little gripe, but as an artist, it bugs me. So that is number 5, Freddy's Revenge. Now we're going to get into the one that I think is going to piss people off a bit. Because there's one on here that is very, very divisive with fans. And I understand the divisiveness of this. I have watched this movie recently, and I understand even more why this was divisive. But I still love it. And that is Freddy vs. Jason. We are counting this as a Freddy Krueger movie. He is in it. It is more of a Jason movie, though. I will admit that. It is way more of a Jason movie than it is a Freddy movie. So, Freddy enlists Jason to kill on his behalf on Elm Street after realizing that he can't haunt the dreams because people no longer fear them. So, an odd plot where Freddy is kind of powerless in the movie and needs Jason to bring fear back to Elm Street. This was the first horror movie I ever saw in theaters. The biggest problem with this, and if you know anything about the series, is this was in writer's hell for so long. This was an absolute nightmare, pun intended, to figure out a story. If you've ever watched the behind the scenes on this, and I have, they went through so many ideas how to get these two people together. And you're probably wondering, why are these two people fighting each other? Well, if we go over to the Friday the 13th franchise, in Jason Goes to Hell, which was in 1993, the end of the movie shows the Jason mask laying in a bunch of sand, and the claws come up out of the sand and pull Jason's mask down, which everyone went, oh, they're in the same universe. And I'm like, yes, they are. And it's the same movie that reminds everybody that Jason is technically a Deadite. He is part of the Evil Dead universe because the Necronomicon is in the Friday the 13th movie. But this was too late. This had so much momentum coming out of the Jason Goes to Hell movie, which was 1993. This movie was 2003. We are now 10 years after that big, this is going to be so cool. Now, was the technology better? Was the makeup better and all that? 100%. But I still feel like we kind of passed the opportunity to do this. Monica Kenis is the lead person. She is Laurie in the movie. She's fine in the movie. The rest of the cast sucks. Like, the rest of the cast sucks, I'll fully admit. They are cannon fodder for Jason. And I specifically say they are cannon fodder for Jason because Freddy only has one kill in the movie. Freddy only has one single kill in this movie. The rest is all Jason. And that's why I said this is technically a Jason movie. This is, however, Robert Englund's last final official role as Freddy. Yes, he has done the makeup again in Parks and Rec TV show. Can't remember. Always Sunny, I think. The cast is horrible, but I do like the lead actress. I think the story's not a bad one. I do fully admit that this is kind of rose-colored glasses for me. Yes, Freddy only has one kill in the movie. He has one kill. Jason does all the work. But, yeah. But I still like it. Like I said, it does hold a special place in my heart because this was my first horror movie in theaters. Before that, it was a lot of watching old horror and not really getting into the new stuff. So we are now at our top 3. We only have a couple left. Number 3 is appropriate because it is Nightmare on Elm Street 3, The Dream Warriors. And yes, the Dawkins song, because it is amazing. Dream Warriors. Such a good song. The cast... wrong one. During a hallucinatory incident, Kristen Parker has her wrist slashed by dream-stalking monster Freddy Krueger. Her mother mistakes the wounds as a attempt, sends her to a psychiatric ward where she joins a group of similarly troubled teens. I like this plot. I think this, for what it is, I think this is the most logical plot for most of these movies. Like, someone has something happen. Parents think it's self-harm. They send them to a psychiatric ward. You find out there are several other people who got sent there, and you all have the same thing that happened. I think that's a cool concept, and it's a great movie in my opinion. And And it makes it easier for Freddy being in a psych ward, because in psych wards, they want you to sleep most of the time, which makes it even easier for him to get to the teens. So really fun. Patricia Arquette as Kristen Parker does a great job. I think she's one of the best, besides Heather Langenkamp as Nancy. I think she's the second best person in this franchise. I wish they used her a lot more. Heather Langenkamp does come back in this one, which I appreciate. I think if you kept her out, it would have been fine, but I like having that connection to the original movie. I think it really plays in well. Having all of the characters and all the teens sort of have their own personalities that are very different from each other, I think works very well. The slug Freddy, I think, is still a great scene. It is a very good CGI practical mix that I think works extremely well in this series. Like I said, further down in the series, we start playing with a lot more AI, and it just kind of falls apart a bit. But I think they do a great job here. Again, I think Patricia could have been a great stay in this franchise, but unfortunately, we go a lot of twists and turns in the future, and it's just kind of a nightmare. Again, pun intended. But yeah, if you've never heard the Dream Warrior song, YouTube it after this. Dream Warriors by Dawkins. It is such a good song. It is on my list of like, I'm going to play this all the time. So we have number 3 at number 3. We got 2 left. What do we think? We got the original, and we've got probably the best sequel. And it's kind of the best sequel because it plays into the first one. Number 2 is Wes Craven's New Nightmare. This is a fun movie. This is a very meta movie, but in all the fun ways. So the cast and crew from A Nightmare on Elm Street are terrorized by Freddy Krueger and his razor-fingered glove as he crosses over into the real world. So if you've never seen this movie, and I'm surprised there are some horror fans that I am friends with that are like, I've never seen A New Nightmare. I know the original ones, but I've never seen this one. I dig this concept of what happens in this is all of the Friday the 13th, well, more the first one, is a movie, and it's puts it as a movie in this franchise, and you follow the actors in this movie, and you realize that Freddy is trying to break into the real world. He is an actual demon trying to get into the real world. Andy says no, no, no in chat. Ooh. See, and that's what I said. There are some people who just, they either slept on it or don't like it, and that's fine. I completely understand. Yeah, so everything in this movie basically says that everything that happened in the previous movies were all movies. They're not real. Now Freddy is in the real world, and he's hunting the cast and crew, which again is a dope concept, and especially coming from Wes Craven, who is, you know, the original writer of Scream, and how meta that movie is of, you know, this is how to survive a horror movie. I think this is a cool little twist on the series. Heather Langenkamp is back. Her son in the movie runs into Freddy on multiple occasions, which I think is really cool, because he doesn't really know what that is and who Freddy is, so he's kind of a little more okay with it. Robert playing 2 versions of this is really fun, because they do have the movie version of Freddy in this. Actually, Robert Englund plays 3 characters in this, which I think is a dope thing for an actor of his caliber. He plays the kind of humorous, goofy Freddy, he plays the terrifying one, and he plays Robert Englund. So having a star of his caliber and doing 3 performances, 3 different ways of kind of the same thing is really cool. There aren't many kills in this movie. I will completely be honest. This is not a bloodbath of a movie. The one kill that I think everyone loves is Julie's, and that is in the hospital where she gets torn apart on the ceiling, which is a great callback to the original. This version of Freddy is the most scary in my opinion. The makeup effects they did on Robert are incredible. Him with the overcoat and the duster hat, or not the I don't know what kind of hat you'd call it, his normal hat, is really creepy looking. I think it's a nice twist on his character. He looks a lot more beat up. Yeah, I love this movie. It's a very meta movie. I know some people kind of crap on it because it's not, the typical Freddy goes and chases a bunch of teens, and this is sort of a more, it kind of breaks the rules a little bit, but I don't mind it. I think it's a cool take. So we are 8 in. We haven't talked about 1, literally, and you can kind of guess. This is kind of a trend with these lists, is that the one that started it all is sort of the one that ends up as number 1 because it did start it all. Nightmare on Elm Street from 1984. The original is the original. It is the best. It is hands down. There's no way you could really say otherwise. Andy said this movie should have been Freddy versus Jason. You know what? I wouldn't have minded that. I really wouldn't have minded if they did Freddy versus Jason first and then they did A New Nightmare. I think that would have been a nice little. That could have been cool, but yeah, they had to wait because Hollywood has to take forever to make anything. So the original, teenagers in a small town are dropping like flies, apparently in the grip of mass hysteria causing their deaths. A cop's daughter, Nancy Thompson, traces the cause to Freddy Krueger, who was burned alive by angry parents many years ago. Krueger has now come back into the dreams of his killer's children, claiming their lives as his revenge. Nancy and her boyfriend Glenn must devise a plan to lure the monster out of the realm of nightmares and into the real world. It is an amazing movie. Marcy said, I lived on Elm Street back when this came out. Ooh. That would have been creepy. That really would have been creepy. Andy said, no, you should replace Wes Craven with Freddy vs. Jason. Really? Okay. Hey, you got your list. I got mine. I think the idea of Wes Craven's New Nightmare is better than what they did with Freddy vs. Jason. I mean, we could all, couch quarterback what we think a better script would have been for Freddy vs. Jason, but I think what we got, New Nightmare is better. And I like Freddy vs. Jason. So this is a classic. This is an absolute classic of a movie. Robert Englund coming in, creating the horror icon. Heather Langenkamp as Nancy, just bringing her into the world of being a scream queen. Nancy's freak out in this is such a good scene. A young Johnny Depp is cameoed in this movie. He plays one of the side characters. The bed kills are amazing, having the blood shoot up out of the bed. The ceiling death is another good one. The bathtub scene is kind of the one that everyone, I think, remembers the most. It is not a kill, but it is kind of creepy where you see the glove come up between her legs and then go back down. I don't know many who would not put this at number 1. Because of its impact on the culture. Robert being an absolute terrifying character in this movie. It's probably the one where he is the most he's the scariest in this one, in my opinion, besides, A New Nightmare. There are many more where he turns that comedy on a bit. Even in number 2, there's a little bit of comedy and we kind of go down that road. But this one, he is straight ahead terrifying, as Marcy said. This one is so terrifying for me. Yep. And I agree. This was one of the few movies when I started to get into horror that I was like, oh, I get it. There was many times when I was growing up, because of my name, that people would want to be like, oh, let's all watch Halloween together. We can watch Halloween with Michael Myers. Oh my God. And I'm like, no, you don't want to watch Halloween with me because A, I absolutely love this movie. And B, it is not a scary movie. It is kind of intimidating, kind of scary back in the day, but in 2000s and forward, it's not a scary movie. Same with Friday the 13th. Like, the original one is not that bad. It's pretty tame compared to today. This one, I was like, oh, okay, I see why people are terrified with this, because I'm the type of person when it comes to horror, the realism part does play a factor into it, and we talked about that when it comes to my review of Weapons. I grew up going, this can't happen to me, so it doesn't scare me. I never went to camp as a kid, so Friday the 13th was nothing to me. I didn't live in Haddonfield, New York, or Haddonfield, Illinois. Michael Myers isn't going to come after me. Also, it's my name. Why would he kill someone with the same name? This one, don't fall asleep. Uh-oh, we all have to fall asleep. So this one definitely made me go, I see why everybody gets a little freaked out by this. But yeah, this one is definitely the number one. I'm trying to think how many times I've seen this one compared to the other ones. I think I've seen this one at least 3-4 times, and I've seen it a couple times with some friends, and some friends were even like, yep, get it. I completely get it. But this is not one that I would watch all the time, but it's still it's a nice classic.